Welcome to our home for the next couple of days.
Majority of you are either at the stages of your master's degree and others are undertaking PhDs. So the subject matter is simple enough even for those doing master's degree to understand. And so when I talk about historical ecological perspectives on pastoralism in the Horn of Africa, actually I will also look at the situation in the Sahara or the Sahel region from historical perspectives, and then how that is linked to pastoralism in the Horn of Africa.
I'm going to talk about the possibilities of a new narrative for pastoral development and policy. It's purposefully got a question mark in there because we don't yet know what that might be. And one of our tasks in the summer school is to try and elaborate what this is. I'm going to suggest some hints at what elements of a new narrative might be, and we can pick up each of these elements as we go through the rest of the summer school. The dominant narrative around pastoralism and pastoral areas is a negative one. And very often existing narratives that feed into policy can actually undermine pastoralism, their livelihoods and environments, rather than support them. So you're all doing research in different forms, and one of the things the research does is tell a story. And a narrative is just a story, but very often there are competing narratives, and that's where power and politics come in. Narratives are political, they have power. They're often associated with dominant actors, powerful positions that come from governments, from international NGOs, from a UN system. But they do need to be interrogated, challenged, and refashioned. And that's our job. That's our job as critical researchers.
We agreed with everything that you presented, but then we asked ourselves, where is the home of the new narrative? Is it in academia? Is it in practice? Is it elsewhere? Or in between the two?
Resilience. How do you measure resilience?
One of the factors that affect the rangelands is land shrinkage. I know you are aware of holistic land grazing management promoted by Alan Savory. Do you think it's a modern way of promoting mobility in rangelands? And if yes, do you have hope for it in solving the issues that are currently faced by pastoralists?
Too often, pastoralism is framed as a system in perpetual crisis, defined by drought, displacement, and dependency. Yet, as I stand before you today, surrounded by brilliant researchers and students dedicated to understanding and strengthening dryland communities, I know this narrative is incomplete.
Capacity development. And in this capacity development, when I went for all the conversation from COP, UNCCD COP, the COP, as we call it, our own COP. So I must always, everybody says, if we have the enough capacity, we'll handle this issue. And so capacity became our new component of work. And to think of that, I thought doing capacity building in a very sporadic way would not deliver what I think we should have delivered. So we think of a vehicle, and I thought about something, and I shared with my colleagues in Edinburgh, Ilri, and it became a reality. With name change and everything, we launched something called the Dryland Futures Academy. The Dryland Futures Academy was initially announced in COP28 in Dubai, and then we developed educational framework for the academy, and now is almost becoming a reality. And this summer school is organized under that Drylands Futures Academy.
This summer school is such an important event for us to create networks. And as part of this summer school, our objective is to make ourselves familiarize with key debates in pastoral development, such that we have a team that pulls in the same direction, and to get exposure to peer-to-peer learning sessions, and even after this, for us to be able to have some networks that keeps on these conversations going.
In our work now, ours to bring out issues from the perspective of the pastoralists themselves, such that it informs policy decisions, allocations of resources in the right way, and also informing development. And at the center of it all is appreciating what pastoralists do within this system that needs to be at the center of development focus.
The bigger point is pastoralist as a critical infrastructure. So our intention is just to introduce the concept, a little bit about the origin, tell you how we have been working on this concept, figuring it out for ourselves, of course supported by the theory and the ideas of how it's been applied elsewhere, and some of the evidence we have from the ground. In our case studies, you can see we are working in Isiolo, Marsabit, and southern Ethiopia. And where is this evidence leading us, and what are some of the ideas or evidence? What can we say about this concept, and how do we see it working in practice, and hence some ideas for action research you hear about later. So I'll start with that, and Washira will come in and do a quick introduction to how we find out who these people are. Because you will be asking me, I'm sure, in the middle, are all pastoralists high reliability professionals? You may wonder which infrastructure is this? Is it the lap set one, or is it the, let's try and go through this together. So you're invited to this reflection of how we are looking at this. So sort of like an inspiration that we draw, and we hope you can think through this with us. So this idea has its origins into the control room operators, people who study management. Emery Rowe, who was here recently with us, and colleagues working in California, thought about these large infrastructures, water supplies, gas operations. Like, they are broad infrastructural projects that require system approaches. I think that is not new to any of you, but there are different real-time actions that are required to keep this system going. And there are critical moments when this system needs to be held together. It cannot collapse. So that's the idea. I'm just giving you some snippets of where the idea originates, but it's also about the real-time skills they apply in those big grids and national transmission systems of water, of gas, of electricity. Think about it that way. The marine port operations, there are people on those on the systems to press on. Others are supposed to put in some inputs. Others are supposed to connect the different people working together. And there is also the management process. So this is where this original idea comes from. And you can read more about this from the reading list.
As I mentioned, we have employed diverse, especially qualitative methodologies to understand this whole idea of high reliability professionals and pastoralism as critical infrastructures. And that has included numerous interviews, numerous focus group discussions, and group interviews. And if you recall well, the choice of that methodology is really based on understanding of resilience as relational, not as an engineering, bounce back, mechanical way of things. So it has needed us that we talk with people, we understand, we analyze what we are getting, and go back there and really still try to understand better. But one of the very sort of pivotal a method we have used to understand high reliability professionals better is what we call the net map. And the net map is not a new method for collecting data. It has been there, some time, especially starting in the 1990s when we talked about, bringing the last first, the works of Robert Chambers, and trying to do some participatory methodologies to see who are the people who are key influencing certain outcomes.
I'm talking about qualitative methods. and the purpose of why we might use qualitative methods in pastoral settings. And when I was thinking about this talk, there's a huge range of people in this room, okay? Some of you are near the end of your PhD fieldwork, and you've been using qualitative methods for years. Others of you are statisticians, and like my dear friend and colleague who says, please don't make me talk to real people, I'm terrified of people, right? Not all statisticians are like that, but I'm here to talk about how and why qualitative methods can be really useful. And for those of you who think that it doesn't count as data, I'm here to change your mind. We're going to talk about what qualitative tools are, why you would use them, when and how they are best employed. Then we'll talk about examples of tools, the process, like how do you even go about this, designing a qualitative research study, and what skills do people need to do qualitative research? How do you train someone to do qualitative research?
Armalet yabi dufe numat turi armade wan abba wan diko qabulle norin biye jiran jerani diko laftidu len qabana armayade bodin de full sabar wa khaya micha kamani ka qoya achka bute tikat
Land, water, and infrastructure. Those things are very well connected. And the big issue is that on the land is the fragmentation of the land, and also land rights, who has access, who doesn't have it, and use of it. And then on the land, there is also the issues of invasive plants that is around. And when it comes to water, water is all about water scarcity that is around, and there is also water salinity increasing and water pollution.
Peace and conflict is a chronic issue in the region. It's been pointed out as the bigger problem in the whole of Africa in pastoralist areas. It's been projected as being timeless, as being cultural. Interventions have been at best non-existent, or at worst collective punishment. It affects everything. It disrupts livelihoods, it disrupts mobility, access to resources and markets.
We covered issues around natural resources and conservation, and we came up with 5 major issues. The first one was on governance, the second one was on development interventions, the third one was conversion of pastoral lands to other land uses, the fourth one was conflicts, and the fifth one was invasive species that are encroaching the pastoral lands.
Looking at climate and resilience, what is the main issue? So we identified that there are several resilience initiatives and efforts across, northern Kenya, arid and semi-arid lands. But why are these resilience efforts not translating into, resilience building for these communities?
Our group handled livestock markets, and the product that we focused on was meat. Well, there were several overarching issues, but we chose to focus on only 3 issues. First issue was suboptimal production and marketing infrastructure. The second issue we looked at was information asymmetry, imbalances in information that leaves the information power to the brokers.
The objective of this summer school is to have a critical mass of scholars, young people, masters, PhDs, to help advocate for the correct narratives, what is based on the knowledge that they gain from here. But this is different from also the regular class-based teaching. It's like applied knowledge, quick dose. It's like a quick dose to help you jumpstart your thinking, your vision. And being with the expert like Ian here, Ian Scoones, who is a world-renowned expert on pastoralism and how range ecosystem work, it's a gift.
what is the new narrative that we need to promote? And I think this is the key part of this the summer school, that we shape up these narratives together, and that we become the advocates, the voices that sort of try to take these narratives forward. And I think we are going to be able to do it because we are a mix of different people from different parts of East Africa, looking at different types of research, all in the drylands, but all sort of converging towards these new narratives, and also at different points of studies. So we have people who are master's students who are just finishing their research. We also have people who are thinking about transitioning from masters to PhDs. We have people who are just starting their PhDs. We have people who are advanced in their PhD studies, like some of us. And I think that this collective critical mass is going to be important in moving these conversations forward.
The Drylands Summer School is one of those life-changing opportunities that any expert with interest in the drylands could ever have. It's one of its kind. The setup is indeed one that communicates to the topic. You get to meet quite a huge base of researchers of different, discipline, talk about the economics of drylands and pastoralism, to the very key issues of market and climate change.
I was also particularly keen in the understanding of pastoralism because that is the research, that is the case that I will be looking at. I have interacted with pastoralists before, and therefore the need and the desire to see what I can do as an individual in my capacity as a researcher to get more insights, and just understanding the path of pastoralism, the dynamics, the fact that we always think that pastoralism and the uncertainty and the risks that they are undergoing are new, but we have realized that they're not entirely new. From a historical perspective, the changes and the variability in climate has been ongoing long enough. So it has given me perspective on how to shape my research as I now have a better understanding of that.
Generally, when I think about pastoralism and drylands, one thing comes to my mind: the livelihoods. How are people surviving? So far we have lectures from researchers who have taken time, around more than even 20 years doing this research in the drylands. And one thing I've found out from their research is they all come to a point, which is livelihood.
So I'm looking at pastoralism as a different system, like a whole system on its own. Like the way you look at the electricity grid, like water supply, like pastoralism is a whole industry on its own, and it has a lot of viable things and people and channels and network that actually contribute and help sustain it in general.
With the focus that this summer school is focusing on, this resilience from the bottom what had attracted me. And in fact, it had met my expectation and beyond. I like it. Professor Ian's presentation, and as well as the other expertise, Elizabeth, Bitter, and you name it, everybody who was here, with their challenge of what's wrong with the resilience programming that's taking place. Why there has been so huge funding went to the resilience, but the impact that has been realized so far is not equivalent to the fund that we put there.
Having such a diverse group of people gives you diverse point of view and perspective. That's very interesting. And it was really also more or less nice time, but also we were very close to the water points. Some people were looking their cows and their cattle by one of their eyes, and then listening to us. We're under the shade. I say, someone is coming like, where is the key to start the generator? I say like, oh, go and look at there. I said, I'm in the meeting. So they're trying to follow us, but at the same time trying to do their daily job, which was their part of life.
We were with elders, and the elders actually emphasized about drought, because drought is a recipe for conflicts. It's a resource, and conflicts around is mostly resource-based conflicts. The issue of intervention, let's give credit to government. The conservancies were the cause of the problems in this area. So I think to me, because I know the dynamics around, so I can give credit to government, the ASTU team, but the conservancies, I don't.
My friend from Somaliland, he was not surprised. He was very surprised because he has just seen the people of Barambade. They are almost similar to the people of Somaliland. So another one is another surprise about the community kitty. So in most of the pastoral communities, they don't have the community kitty, but in Barambade, they are really very organized to have the community kitty, which they are using to respond to some of the shocks and emergencies.
I want to be part of the new narrative, and we can, through the voices from here and the interactions, the networks that we are going to build, we can have a different narrative that's not so focused on the negative aspects of pastoralism, because at the end of the day, pastoralism is what makes us, especially as a girl from the north, pastoralism holds a key moment for me, and it's very pivotal in my journey.
So the outcome looks like this. The government budget recognizes pastoralism. That leads to pastoralism being adequately financed. And then for all that to happen, then pastoralism must be well placed politically, because the budgeting and the financing process is very political.
The group deemed it that the existing policies are not pastoral community centric. Yes, we do have policies that exist, but the existing ones are not pastoral community centric. So as a result, the policy change outcome, the group thought that the policymakers who are better informed on pastoral issues and make informed decisions. So this is the change that the group, after some times, maybe through our work, through our pathways and also the actors that we work with, we're going to come up with.
So I'm here at the Drylands Summer School 2025, which has an amazing experience, and I think it's one of the best ways to learn about pastoralism, and it gives you an insight on what pastoralism is from the bottom up, and is a collaborative way of learning, hands-on learning, very experiential, very immersive. You cannot get the same knowledge from weeks and weeks of workshop and years of reading research papers.
From Drylands Summer School, I commit to make a demonstrable contribution working with communities, academia, and practice in designing or creating, understanding the problems that these communities face, in order to have an inclusive way to come up with solutions that address the real challenges that these communities face, rather than coming up and imposing solutions that are not context-specific to their challenges.
Let us learn from the pastoralists on their innovation and adaptation to crisis and shocks.
Summer School 2025, Resilience from Below.